All right, Mr. Islam. So our first news is about Rohingya issue. And Myanmar is facing an investigation by the ICC over treatment in Rohingya. And we have a video call from India. Mr. PhD scholar Shariful Islam is with us. Hello, doctor. Can you hear us?
Yes, I am hearing you.
Why do Myanmar's powerful neighbors, including India and China, still support it?
See, Myanmar is situated in a very geographically in a very important area, and it's politically important for both neighbors, namely India and China. And India and China are supporting Myanmar due to their common interest. It's political, geopolitical, and strategic also. Like Myanmar is a gateway for China for its Belt and Road Initiative, and at the same time, Myanmar is a gateway for India for its look East policy. So, like it's not new that India is supporting to Myanmar or China is supporting to Myanmar. Myanmar was a very good ally or friend of China long time ago, like after the military came in power in Myanmar. And India started giving back or support to Myanmar since 1992, when India shifted its foreign policy, like not engaging with the military dictatorship. But in 1992, it changed its foreign policy and try to engage Myanmar in a constructive way. So what we are seeing today is the continuation of in 1992. So now in present context that both countries are strongly supporting Myanmar on the Rohingya issue, not particularly it's also voting against a resolution that bringing up that is bringing up Bangladesh against Myanmar in international forum. So both Myanmar and China and India are heavily investing in Myanmar, particularly Rakhine regions. This Rakhine region is resourceful area, and both China and India want to exploit the resource from there, and that's why they are trying to support Myanmar on Rohingya issue. And India particularly is supporting Myanmar because it has several other issues also, because India want to connect in Northeast region through seaport, and also extend its economic and other relation with Southeast Asian countries through Myanmar. So northeast part of India is has been facing insurgency since the independence of India. So it needs to tackle insurgency in that regions, and for that it needs support from Myanmar. So this of supporting Myanmar on Rohingya issue is a very calculated, rational choice of India. So India is now driving by a rationalist policy, and that's why it doesn't care any humanitarian issue what's happening in neighboring countries. So it's now particularly focusing on its national interest. And in terms of China's domestic politics is not democratic, and it doesn't have these democratic forces that will speak for the Rohingya people or other minorities who are facing oppression in their home countries. So China is under the authoritarian regime. So for the authoritarian regimes, it's the national interest and the economic booming matter. And for them, Myanmar is a place that they can exert their influence and exploit the economic resource and embolden their political influence in that regions.
All right, thank you for your great comments. So I would like to ask you another question. Will the Rohingya ever go back home?
Yeah, that question, like will the Rohingya ever go home, it not depends on them now. It depends on several actors, as we have pointed out that Myanmar is the main actors. Myanmar is the Myanmar's people. So if Myanmar wants them wholeheartedly, then the Rohingya people will go, because we know that the people who fled their home, they always carry a memory of their home. So they leave the home when outside of the home. So it depends on the Myanmar whether Myanmar wants Rohingya people to come back in home or not. So for that, this Rohingya people, for going back home, Myanmar needs to do a lot. It needs to change its constitution. It needs to like give citizenship rights to the Rohingya, right to livelihood in a dignified way, and also safety and security for the Rohingya people. Because what we are seeing in this now, there's the Rohingya people are saying when Bangladesh trying to push them or try to repatriate them a few months back, then the Rohingya people are saying that they will go when when Myanmar will give them the assurity that the right to livelihood will be ensured, and they will have safety and security of their life in their own motherland. And for that, whether it also depends on other international actors, particularly the two neighboring powers, India and China, and to some extent with Japan and other Western countries also, because we have seen the Japan also investing in Myanmar, in also Rakhine, neglecting the human rights violation happening in Rakhine region. And some other Western countries also should take consideration that how they can help Bangladesh and Rohingya people.
Okay, so Mr. Sariful Islam, we thank you so much for your great comments. And I would like to say something about this issue. Myanmar officials are facing an investigation by the International Criminal Court over the treatment of Rohingya Muslims. The probe will look at allegation of systematic use of violence during the 2017 military crackdown that forced 730,000 Rohingya to flee across the border. The International Criminal Court has approved a full investigation into allegation of persecution and crimes against humanity that forced more than 740,000 Rohingya to flee Myanmar. And now we would like another video call from our another professor, Dr. Mehebub Sahana from India. But before, I would like to ask Mr. Islam what he thinks about this issue, the Rohingya issue.
Thank you, Mr. Janir. As we saw, the Mr. Shariful Islam, he shared his opinion about, like, as you asked him some questions. I just want to include something, this the issue, like the Myanmar now they are facing, especially the Myanmar officials, as I want to mention, like the army, even also the politicians. They will be investigated by ICC, International Criminal Court, over the treatment with the Rohingya Muslim people. As I want to mention, like, some perspective, like recently the Gambia is one of the African countries, and I think the very brave country who shows their their willingness to do something what is happening, actually what happened with the Rohingya people. As you know, this even the United Nations, even so many international organizations, Amnesty International, they publish so many reports about this, what is happening in Myanmar. For example, like this, even United Nations say this is this textbook example of ethnic cleansing. This is the overall situation, and now we saw that the Gambia, like by the authorization of Organization of Islamic Cooperation, I mean like YC, 57 countries. Even today, I'm seeing the news from ABC. It shows like the something like how the backup from 57 Muslim countries, even from Canada, they are also especially helping this issue. And as we know, the Turkey, they have also very good backup on this issue. So this is trying to be a very good way. I mean, let's in a very good way, what we can say that the justice, because like the Myanmar officials and also the politicians, what they did with the Rohingya people, it is like one kind of you can say like the so many indicators which shows like the genocide. And I hope like the ICC, when now even also the ICC judges, they already took it in their list, and I believe like it will actually create the another justification or judgment, like what happened with the Rohingya people, especially the Myanmar soldiers and Myanmar military, they did with the Rohingya people. Even also like as Mr. Sharif included something like the economic perspective from China and India, that as we know the regional perspective, because we know that the two powerful countries is the one of two most powerful countries in Asia. One is China and another is India, and they have a so much influence to continuance this like the problem, or what we can say the crisis and conflict. And as we know this, as you already mentioned, even like the more than we can say the expected, if we even also included the registered, unregistered Rohingya people who are in now Bangladesh, it's almost 1 million. So who the situation of them, and the layer how I can say that the shelter, even the living situation, it's one of the world most worst situation, because of the the fact, even as if you remember the previously in our talking, I also mentioned like the Bangladesh is not even also the very rich country, and very in other sense it's a very overpopulated country. So in that case, the 1 million people refugees were included with the Bangladesh, it's really pressure for Bangladesh. Even the Bangladesh government, they give some resolving method, for example safe zone for Rohingya people. Even Bangladesh diplomatically they try to resolve this, but the issue is very hard, because the inside the politics and the military issue of Myanmar. So I think like this is the issue like I can include, and I hope so like the what the Gambia they took the issue, or it will be the actually initial stage to identify the Myanmar officials, especially the military officials, to include them in the united or how we can say in the list of like the what we can say in a justification or in a justice way.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. So we have now another guest from India again, Professor Dr. Mehebub Sahana. He's with us. Welcome to Special Weekends, Professor.
Hello, myself Mehebana. Basically, I'm from West Bengal, a Bengali Muslims, and now I'm working at New Delhi. So, hello everyone.
Can you please, I would like to get into a deeper for this issue. And can you please tell us some historical perspective of Rohingya issue?
Yeah. So exactly. So basically, as an geographer, and I think the Rohingya issue is actually a post-colonial refugees. We can say them as an post-colonial refugees. So the issue is not a present. We can, if we try to understand the conflicts of Rohingya, so we should know the history. We should understand the history of Rohingya. So basically, it's all the history is belong to the colonialism. So if we link this community, so it's because of the partitions of India and Bangladesh. It's later it's Bangladesh. Before it's a partition between India and Pakistan. So the partitions was partition was happened on the basis of the religions. That means Muslims and Hindus. Okay. So now that times all this land belong to the colonies of British. So that time now we can also link these issues with the present conditions in Assam's Muslims. Those Bengali Muslims live in Assams. So they come to under some issues of illegal migrant stay in Assam's Borak Valley. So this come under some Indians law is came here. It's NRC. So again, the people who live there from long time, from more than 200, in the Arakan state. They are actually Bengalis, and the land is belong to these Rohingya Bengali Muslims. So because they are living there, and they just cross this, and that it's an integral part of the Bangladesh, because there is no border. There is no such kind of border that it's in Myanmar or in Bangladesh.
All right, Mr. Sahana, I would like to tell you, what do you think that will the Rohingya will ever go back home? I would like to hear that from you.
Obviously, it's an issue of international issue. That's this land or this state is belong to the Rohingya, because it's if we say that the state is belong to the community, any community based on religion, so it's very wrong, because they live there 200, and it's historically proved that they live there more than 2 to 300 years. Yes, this land is belong to the Rohingya. It's a responsibility of universal community, responsibility to the human rights associations of several nations. So we should fight for their rights to give this land to the Rohingyas.
All right, thank you so much for your great comments, and I would like to thank to both of our guests, Dr. Shariful Islam and Professor Dr. Mehebub Sahana, for being with us.